I remember looking for my dad. I knew something was wrong. There was a newspaper on the kitchen table with a picture of him lying on the ground, fatally shot in the chest. So I knew something was seriously wrong.
I think that she realizes that these officers still care and remember her father 50 years later, that her father's memory has not died with himself. His memory still lingers with all of us. We carry his tradition. We do the same position and same type of job that he did.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Call the Cops. My name is Officer Jamie Keneally, and as always, we got a big show in store. And I don't know if you know this, but way back in 1962, President John F. Kennedy, JFK, thought it wise, thought it appropriate to set aside or designate a day to honor police officers killed in the line of duty. And as such, he signed a bill back in '62 designating May 15th of every year as the day to remember and honor police officers killed in the line of duty. So if you didn't know that, now you do. May 15th of every year is what they call Police Officer or Peace Officer Memorial Day. And this past month, out of respect to I believe the 77 officers killed in the line of duty in Boston, members of our department actually did a vigil at the next door to police headquarters at our memorial. And during the vigil, the daughter of a police officer who was killed 50 years ago, the daughter of police officer John Gallagher, stopped by to pay her respects and really to remember her dad. The quick story: May 25th of 1962, again 50 years ago, police officer John Gallagher was shot and killed in the line of duty responding to a call for a bank alarm at the Shawmut Bank over in Kenmore Square at 540 Commonwealth Avenue. At the time of his passing, Ann Gallagher was 5 years old. And for those not familiar with the location, to honor John Gallagher and to mark the spot where he was killed, and actually the 50-year anniversary of his passing, a hero sign, and we'll get into the hero sign project in a second, but a hero sign was erected at 540 Commonwealth Avenue to forever remember John and to forever remind people about the sacrifice he made to the citizens of this fine city on the early morning hours of May 25th, 1962. As police officers, we understand the importance of remembering our own. We get it. We understand why it's important. But I got to say, in meeting and getting to know tonight's guest, Ann Gallagher, it really, for me and every police officer she has met, it has really reinforced the importance of never forgetting and always remembering officers who have made that ultimate sacrifice. So it is my honor and pleasure and privilege to introduce not just Ann Gallagher, but Bobby Anthony. So without any further ado, Ann.
How do you do?
Thank you so much.
Nice to see you.
For coming on the show. Bobby. All right, thank you. So why have the both of you on? So I guess the big question is how did you guys kind of hook up and get to know one another? It's an interesting story. Prior to your showing up at the vigil at our memorial next door to police headquarters, you guys had started talking. So how did you first meet Bobby?
Okay, well, some time ago, I work in downtown Boston area, and waiting for my bus on Otis Street, I noticed a sign of an officer killed in the line of duty in 1908. And I had looked into getting one. I thought it was appropriate to have one when my father was killed. Right. So I emailed Councilor Linehan. He's my representative from South Boston. I emailed his office, and his assistant got back to me and said it was Officer Bob Anthony who was in charge, and she forwarded your email to me. And Bob very kindly said, tell Ann to get in touch with me anytime, and we'll go from there. So
one thing led to another. Ann's looking for, because you are doing the Hero Sign Project, and for those people who don't know, what the Hero Sign Project is?
Well, the Hero Sign Project was, it started resonating by Commissioner Davis, Superintendent-in-Chief Olinsky, Superintendent Evans, and myself sat down, and we decided to come up with an idea that we can remember the fallen officers, all 77 that were killed in the line of duty, as a place that we can put up a sign that a person that may come by and see the sign just could reflect for a couple of moments of what this officer had given to the city of Boston and has fallen in the line of duty.
Hugely appropriate to mark the spot where an officer was killed in the line of duty. So, like you said, people will forever remember the sacrifice made. So, you have the Hero Sign project underway, and here's about it. And prior to her call, you were in the process of putting up a sign in honor of her dad.
Right. I have to make reference to that. This was approved by the mayor to give us permission to put these signs up at the various locations. And appropriate kudos to the mayor and the commissioner, because this is a project that there is no project like this in the country, right? That's correct. We're the first in the nation. I mean, first in the nation in the police department, first in the nation to start this project, to put up a sign at each location or in the proximity of the location that we could put. Some signs we won't put up where an officer may have fallen in the line of duty at a suspect's house. We'll move the sign down to another location. Right. But Ann calls up and says, hey, I love the idea, but my father was killed in the line of duty back in '62, and you say, well, I explained, and I got the sign. Right. I did explain to her that I started with Area A, and I started working my way, and I was in the process of Area D, which was the location in Kenmore Square, and we were going to be putting up the sign, and her father's sign was one of the signs that was in the next round of signs that was going to be put up. All right, so talking to Bobby for the first time, did you like him, or you're like, this guy's kind of...
I thought he was fabulous. I still do.
Wow, you don't do that very often.
You're another case for
it. So you guys start to talk.
Yes.
The sign goes up, or is about to go up, but in the interim, May 15th, we have the vigil next door at the memorial next door to Boston Police Headquarters. And what kind of happens there? You say to her, or you send him a badge, your father's badge?
Well, what I wanted, where this is the 50th, I didn't know the city was going to do anything in terms of memorial. I wanted some special way to commemorate a 50-year anniversary. So I had these lapel pins made. They're sterling silver with my dad's number on it.
We're lucky we're all wearing one today.
1308.
1308 with your dad's badge number.
Yeah, and it says Boston Police, and it said patrolman at the time. I know now they say police officer. I had them created for certainly some family members, and then some very special folks who certainly appreciated the meaning, the significance of what happened, and I felt certainly Officer Anthony and yourself and some others certainly deserve one. So I sent one to Bob. And he was very moved by it and let me know that. And then he wrote me an email and said he was going to wear it at the Sentinel Watch.
Awesome.
And I was absolutely thrilled. I was absolutely thrilled you wanted to do that. And at that point, we started talking back in November, I think. And now it's May, and I still had not met Bob.
Had the pleasure.
I had not met Bob personally to thank him personally and meet him and say hello. So that was my intention in coming over. Of course, I wanted to see the Sentinel Watch as well. I thought that was a very nice thing. I didn't know it was the first year you were doing it.
Yeah, first of May to come.
Right, but it was primarily to say thank you and say hello.
Let me ask you the obvious question, Bobby. So, Ann sends you the badge. It's a replica of her dad's badge. I mean, it makes sense, but why did you, say, hey, listen, I'm going to wear this badge to honor your dad? Why was that important for you to do it? And how did that come to be?
In this job of trying to uncover and remembering officers that have passed before us and given their life for the city, you don't always make a connection with somebody as we made a connection. Ann was the same age I was when her father passed away, which was kind of a twofold type of understanding. I mean, I kind of looked up to Kennedy when I was a kid, and I always thought Kennedy was a big hero, and that kind of superimposed upon the idea. But when I got this badge, it meant a lot because it was like it was a feeling, a touch feeling out there that someone remembers somebody, and I know that anybody that loses someone in the line of duty, you always remember that person. But there was a more of a connection there that we were able to connect, and I felt that wearing this on that day was very beneficial. Not that I'm reflecting upon any of the other 76 officers that went prior, but it was just that this was something that was tangible that we can put out there.
So he makes the gesture and says, hey, Ian, for what it's worth, not for nothing, as Bobby likes to say, because he works over in East Boston, not for nothing, but I'm going to wear the badge in honor of your dad. And so when you hear that, what are your feelings?
Again, it just deeply touched, deeply moved. It's extremely poignant. There aren't enough words to adequately describe really the feeling, other than I just know that with the sign and the response from you folks, the kindness, the compassion, the understanding, especially coming from officers, and 50 years later.
Yeah.
It's incredibly supportive.
Mm-hmm.
It eases the burden.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a burden shared is a burden halved.
Yep.
And I don't know, it's just to be supported, it's an uplifting thing to have so many people kind of gather around and say, you know, we understand.
It's true. It's been an instant connection with you.
Yeah.
And you asked the question, I remember when I first met you the day at the vigil, the Sentinel Watch, you know, are all families appreciative of what you do? And I can't say, I mean, I know they are, but you're the first one who I kind of had a chance to meet and get to know, and then to hear the story about your dad and all that stuff. There's a connection there, you're right. And you are an extension of the family. And we almost feel like we got to adopt in, you know, we got to bring her under our wing. But to let you know how much your dad's service meant to us as police officers, and that ultimate sacrifice made. I mean, it's just, I think again, everybody you have spoken to or communicated with has been deeply touched by the story. Did you feel? Have you felt? Like you said, I mean, I'm sure you felt that back. But were you surprised at the reception you got when you showed up here at the Watch?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It was really a first-time experience for me. I think that's why it's so monumental for me.
Yeah.
And it's also, it's 50 years, and to have all of this happen now.
Right.
Like the sign was supposed to go up, what, November, I think, right? Correct. And then there was a delay. Yeah. I'm glad there was.
Yeah.
Because it went up in January as soon as it turned to 50 years.
Right.
You know, 2012.
Yep.
So it's absolutely perfect. So there's been a nice kind of confluence of events.
Yep.
It's been very serendipitous and,
yeah, absolutely.
you know, a really fabulous experience. And again, I know for me, my own personal journey, it's a difficult thing to have to integrate into your life, and to have the healing part of it is to have so many people really say, you know, I understand this.
Right.
I understand this.
The day you show up, though, and you meet Bobby for the first time, and granted, he's, you know, he's a handsome man. I'll just leave it at that. But when you see him standing guard, and it was a nice touch, it was a nice tribute, and you see him with with your dad's badge. What do you kind of what kind of feelings are you having when you see that? Remembering your dad, you know.
I guess numerous things. Deeply poignant again, incredibly moving, enormously powerful. Something to cherish and value. It's forever etched in my heart and soul. It's not something I'm going to forget. The Sentinel Watch and the sign project and all that happened on May 25th down at Kenmore Square with the commissioner and Chief Linsky and all of you folks, everybody who was there. You know, and even the other officers, Isabel Sweet, Officer Sweet, that I met that day. She was taking the photographs, and several others. Sorry, I can't recount their names right now, but it was just a marvelous, hospitable, warm reception. Yeah, and I appreciate it.
And you talk about the chain of events. It's May 15th, of course, as we know, is Police Officer, Peace Officer Memorial Day. But May 25th, which was the day your dad was killed in the line of duty, 50 years ago, the hero sign was up at 540 Commonwealth Ave. And we actually have started to do something new and different. I think I don't think I know, as a result of getting to know you, but understanding the importance of that and making people hopefully stop and take notice. And Bobby, maybe you can elaborate on that, but you know, it was a ceremony. It wasn't just let me put a wreath up and mark the occasion.
It sure was.
It was. Well, it was more than that.
It was originally going to be kind of a low-key.
It was going to be you going by and putting a wreath up.
Basically, that's basically what it was. And you know, the commissioner and like I said, the chief and the superintendents and stuff. We discussed the idea that maybe we can resonate on this a little bit more and maybe start reflecting upon the officers at their 25th anniversaries, at their 50th anniversaries. We have 9 signs that are going up within the next couple of weeks, and. That's what we did was, the commissioner likes to put something tangible out there that let people see that, you know, we don't forget our own. And I mean, you know, it's a cliche word that's always said, you know, the thin blue line. And you know, we don't forget our own. And the Boston Police is no different than any of the other police departments. That we're all bound together by our own cloth that we wear.
But it's true. We don't forget our own. And just to touch on the ceremony, I mean, I think the decision was made moving forward, at the very least, to have a piper present and the color guard.
Correct.
So people passing by will be forced to stop and kind of just say, hey, what's going on over there?
And they did.
And they did.
And they approached me.
And they approached you, and that was it was just, I don't know, I just thought it was just so, it was just appropriate, and it was so well done, and it doesn't take much to do it well.
No.
But I mean, Joe Cheever's the piper, and there's something about just the awesome nature of the pipes, which just, it forces you to kind of take in the moment.
It's kind of like a crying. It's a wailing, you know, when you listen to the pipers.
Yeah, but it's, you can't help but say, well, you know, you can't help but focus on why you're there. And so we had the color guard, we had the piper, we had all the officers on that district show up.
Right.
It was supposed to be something small, turn into something a little bit more special. But when we roll up, were you like, what were your thoughts? Like, wow, this is pretty special, or?
Well, initially, you had said to me you were going over there to put a wreath on the sign.
Right.
And I pictured you, and then you said out loud, I don't know if you realized it, you said, I got to get a ladder.
Right.
So I picture you over in Kenmore Square standing on a step
struggling,
putting a wreath up.
Trying to put the wreath up on your dad's
I was going to go to work that day.
Right.
I wasn't even sure I was going to get over there because I had come over to the Sentinel Watch, and that was very nice.
Yep.
So I had been down to the sign several times. Some of my friends wanted to see it as well. So,
but you're thinking, oh man, I got to get a
no,
ladder for Bobby
about,
Anthony.
I thought of it. I was going to say, I'll bring you one. You know, I have a very nice step stool. Yeah. Anyway,
I can't reach that high, bud.
I didn't know about it till I read Gelzinis' article in the Herald.
And we should actually give him some kudos because he wrote a great article about your dad.
And Amalia Beretta's piece, she was spectacular, incredibly sensitive woman, and said very kindly in an email. She sent me several emails, actually, but she said, I will always remember your dad and your family when I go to Kenmore Square.
Well, Gelzinis' article that day drew attention to what was going on. And again,
so did Amalia's piece, Channel 5.
And Amalia's piece, and
I have strangers coming up to me saying, I saw you on the news, you know.
And you're like, hey, that's me. You're not signing anything now.
I'm not signing.
All right, good. But, I mean, isn't it just right that, you know?
Absolutely. But as you said, and I think you mentioned it too, it's not only for my dad. Yeah. It's any officer who's fallen in the line of duty. Right. I mean, that is so significant and such of a serious nature. And I said on Channel 5, I consider it sacred ground where a person falls.
Absolutely.
You know, whether even a car accident where someone is killed, it's not only police officers, but to mark a spot where someone has fallen and given their life. It needs to be remembered. It
should be remembered, and again, I think we succeeded that day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it was. I mean, it was a fitting, appropriate, celebration.
More widely, for other folks who may not think of it.
Right.
And it's okay unless you are affiliated with an officer in a family. There's law enforcement people in your family or friends. You know, probably doesn't cross your mind. Right. I don't think of everything that could happen to everybody in every other profession either. Right. You know, so when it touches you personally, obviously it does, and if it can heighten people's awareness as to the significance of a police officer's work and what they do, how hard they work, the risks they're willing to take. Yeah. I think that's important. All of that's kind of folded into this sign.
But it is though, and we've had the conversation before. I mean. Hey, we're low-hanging fruit. It's easy to bang on police officers. It's easy to criticize police officers. It's easy to talk about police officers working details. And what gets lost in all that is the point you just made. That I've met. It's funny. I've met so many decent men and women on this job.
Right.
And I know everybody out there who's not a police officer has the story about them getting pulled over and getting a ticket. And before I became a police officer, I didn't necessarily love cops either. But on the inside looking in, from the inside looking in, you get a lot of dedicated people who care about the city, who love the city and want to make a difference and help people. Which gets me back to your dad. Yeah. Tell us what was your dad like?
I think his personality was well suited to being a police officer. Yeah. He was a gentle giant. He was very tall. I think he was about 6'2".
So tall, like.
How tall are you?
Okay.
See,
I'm like 6'.
He was about your height.
I'm about 5, 6. Okay, good. So tall, gentle giant.
Extremely good-natured. I always, growing up, we had officer friendly. We used to come to the classroom, to build good relations with the community. And I always thought that would have been a good job for my dad. he loved people. He loved helping people. And he was very confident and very competent as well. I also think that he was very aware of the authority and the role that he played. I don't think he took it lightly that he carried a firearm and was wearing a badge. And at the same time, he didn't have to throw his weight around. I don't think he was trying to get his sense of confidence, self-esteem, self-worth from carrying a gun and wearing a badge and giving people a hard time. I don't think that's what he was about. I think he realized that he represented the law, which is a pretty awesome responsibility, and he took it very seriously. And I think he took it seriously that he was carrying a firearm and had a certain role to play in society, in the community.
What's the expression, you get more with honey than you do vinegar? Is that it?
Yes.
I mean, some guys approach this job that way. They understand. When you said that to me for the first time, it resonated because you have awesome responsibility. You do have a firearm. You do have the ability to lock somebody up.
You do.
But at the beginning and the end of the day, you take this job because you want to make a difference and you want to help people. Sometimes you get caught up in the day-to-day and people do things that frustrate you, and you kind of lose sight of that mission every so often. But that's the main reason people take this job. And his approach just seems it was the right approach. He got it, it seems.
Well, I mean, in many of the photographs I have, I mean, he's surrounded by people. When he was on the mounted unit, I mean, he enjoyed conversing with folks.
Kids,
anybody really. Whether you were the president, a king, or the person living on the street. He treated you the same way, with respect. And good-naturedness. He had a great sense of humor, extremely witty. The neighbors all loved him. Even as a kiddo, I remember we used to wait for him at the top of the street, a whole gang of us. When he worked roofing jobs sometimes, and especially before we got on the force, and we'd get in the back of the pickup truck, and he'd give us a ride down the street. Except for me, I was too little. I think I told you that story.
You did, front seat with a seatbelt.
Well, no, there was no seatbelt law then. But I mean, so anyway, I was very put out that I couldn't get in the back with all the other kids, and he just, this is an example. I mean, he said, "Sit up here with me. It's special. It's special." So, and away went my mood. I was fine. Well, okay, it's special.
I get some
I took his word. This is better. But I was very disturbed, and he was always very inclusive like that.
He seems like a very empathetic guy.
I think he enjoyed life. He thoroughly enjoyed people. He thoroughly enjoyed his family. And that's why he's so memorable to me. That's why I don't forget him.
I mean, just being around you, so many people have been infected or impacted by your dad's passing. And you saw that at the vigil of the Sentinel Watch. And then I think, let me ask you this. What do you think made him such a good police officer? All those things?
All of those characteristics, absolutely.
And talk, I remember what kind of police officer he was. You said he took tremendous pride in the job. And again, this is something Bobby and I both were kind of like, you hear that. Here's a guy who wants to make a difference, loves people. The uniform is always looking good.
It was always
What do you remember?
Well, geez, I remember either my mother ironing it or coming back from the dry cleaner, and they had the full suits with the double-breasted and all that, and the hat was always straight. I mean, that was from my mother telling me that story, and she told me that the guys down at the division used to tease him about what's with the hat, Gallagher. What's with the straight? Can't you wear it to the side or tip
Gallagher.
back? So. And the shoe shining is my story. I do remember that because I imitated him. He'd buff and shine his shoes. It went on for like 45 minutes.
Awesome. And you see it in the pictures too.
So you could see could see himself in his shoes.
Right. Mirrors. I don't have the mirror shine. We don't need to look at my shoes or your shoes.
I noticed my brother's son is a little bit like that. He's a maritimer now, freshman Maritime Academy. And
but it speaks of a pride.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is why I think there's such a connection there because, I didn't know your dad. I feel like I knew your dad. Or your dad sounds like the kind of guy I wanted to know. We got a couple minutes left, and I just want to ask a couple obvious questions. Do you think people appreciate the sacrifices made by police officers?
Well, again, as I said earlier, I think unless your life has been touched by it in some fashion, or you know folks, like my nieces have said that they have a number of them have friends who are police officers, and they now know of this story. They know of the event on May 25th. It's down in New Jersey, and as far as I think Rwanda, my brother-in-law has a friend there who saw some Boston.com stuff. So by doing these things, I think
Yeah.
it heightens people's awareness if they hadn't been mindful of it before.
I couldn't agree with you more, yeah.
But the thing that struck me was when the officer in Greenland, New Hampshire was killed,
Right.
the chief,
Yeah.
and his name escaped, Maloney, Chief
Yep.
Maloney. The woman they interviewed that night, and she lived in the neighborhood when the shooting took place. She was crying when they interviewed her, and she said, "I never thought of it before, how much they put at risk, how much danger they face, and how much danger he faced that night, and they kept coming even though there was all the shooting going on." So it's a serious job, and probably if you thought about that, you wouldn't go to work in the
Right,
morning,
right.
right? You can't. I suppose you can't afford to, but
Yeah.
I'm sure it's there somewhere.
Yep.
It's in your spouse's mind, I'm sure.
Well, I think every day
Well, I
police
think-
officer goes to work
Right?
and puts
Well,
on
we-
the vest and the gun, you have to think about it.
Well, it's the same thing. I mean, the past couple of weeks, we ventured up to Springfield to bury a police officer that was killed.
Ambrose.
Karen Ambrose, yeah.
Karen Ambrose. And
That was a terrible thing.
if
I
you
know,
look,
yeah.
if you look down the road, and you could see the flotation of officers that went down the road, it went on forever. I mean, there had to be about 10,000 officers that showed up for this funeral, and you know, from all departments all over, everywhere. I think we even had some Canadian officers that came down, and the people that stood out holding flags were reflected upon the outpouring of how much it meant to losing somebody. I mean, people don't realize that we put this uniform on every day to go out in the streets, and hopefully we know in the back of our mind that, you know, you never know what's going to happen on your tour of duty. You're hoping to come home that night. And people also realize that, you know, police officers run towards danger when everybody else runs away from it.
But I think that's why we relate to Ann as well as we do, because you think about one of our brother officers who didn't come home.
Right.
Yeah.
So she's become a little sister of sorts. I don't know if she realizes it. Last question. I mean, you know, what do you want people to think about, or maybe think a little bit differently about when they see a police officer drive down the street, or they see a police officer with a car pulled over? Is there anything you think folks should consider before they're like, the cops again?
Well, I'm only going to speak for myself, what I think of. When I see an officer, my first thought is stay safe
Yep.
and go home to your family at night.
Yep.
Take good care of yourself. These are my thoughts.
Yeah.
But I've been known to buy them a cup of coffee. There were two folks behind me, two officers behind me in Dunkin'
Awesome.
Donuts, and I bought them a cup of coffee.
That's
They kind
awesome.
of didn't know what to do.
You're right.
You're
I
a
wouldn't know what to
suspicious
do.
bunch, right?
Yeah. I mean, what is, yeah.
But
I
they-
setting us up.
But what's she doing? So the
working for
cashier at
IAD,
Dunkin'
yeah.
Donuts, though, she said, that was so nice. I mean, it made her happy, and then they finally realized, yeah, that was a nice thing. But I still think that it might have made him a little
Hey,
nervous.
that was
I don't
nice,
know.
you lady. I don't know why you did it, but it was,
I don't know. But anyway, so I don't know. I respect the law. When I see an officer, you represent the law to me,
Yeah.
and I think I hold that in high regard. Now, I don't know what other people do or don't do, but
Well, yeah, unfortunately, we do. Bobby, last question. Just the important. I mean, what did you get out of all this? Meeting Ann, again, probably understanding the importance of, you know, not only the vigil, the Sentinel Watch, the Hero Sign Project. What do you what's your takeaway from all this?
When you're able to touch somebody's heart, or
Right.
someone's able to touch your heart and reflect upon how much this means to them, that, you know, it really resonates to how much this job really means. You know, to wear this badge, I mean, you know, we're the oldest police department in the nation. You know, I mean, we're the first in a lot of things. Like I said, the Hero Sign Project is the first in the nation.
Yep.
You know, and all the departments have contacted us about starting a project like that themselves.
Which is huge. No, there's so much good that has come out of this. And again, I think the best part has been getting to know you, Ann.
thank you so
Hands
much.
down.
Same here.
And
Same here.
you know, I said at the top of the show, I'll say it on the way out. You reminded us of why it's so important to do the things we do when it comes to remembering our own. Because, you know, again, in you, there's like a little sister, that we've embraced. And I think you've embraced us back a little bit.
I have.
Yeah, more, not so much Bobby, but but no, it's just, I thank you for that. I do. I sincerely thank you for that. And I think moving forward, the Hero Sign Project and marking the anniversaries, there's so much good has come out of it, and I think it's we owe it to you. So.
Well, thank you, and I hope it does pass along to other families. I hope it becomes more of a regular thing that you do mark, like the special anniversaries.
That's what we do. We have a few that we have coming up. We have 3 coming up. One will be coming up in October, which is Roy Sergi. It was 25 years, and then in February we have two. We have Detective Gill and Detective Griffith's 25th anniversary also coming up.
All heroes for sure. Mr. Anthony, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And Gallagher, awesome. And for you, those of you at home, thank you so much for watching Call the Cops. Till next time, have a great week. Be safe, everybody. Good night.